What's up, y'all? How you doing? Hope you're good, feeling good, looking good, and if not, getting there soon. I saw that shooting in Tennessee and was kind of shocked to hear that a woman was the shooter. And then I heard it was a transgender woman, and I was still confused because neither one fits the profile, the typical, frustrated, angry young man. Feels like he doesn't fit in, probably been bullied, etc. And I saw folks talking about it, and it was kind of what I expected, unfortunately, or more aptly, sadly. There was vitriol towards the transgender community, and it's been ramping up as we head into the 2024 election. There's a lot of cultural war being fought, and the transgender community seems to be one of the front lines. I speak up for them because of a poem penned by a Lutheran priest. I think his name was Patrick Moniel, or Nomiel, because he's German, not Irish. And this is what he wrote. He said, "First they came for the socialist, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a socialist. And then they came for the trade unionist, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a trade unionist. And then they came for the Jews. I didn't say anything because I wasn't a Jew. And then they came for me. And there was nobody left to speak up for me." He was saying that from the perspective of a German person who probably had a white-collar job and a sense of entitlement to speaking up and calling out the government. So they came for him. And I'm sure a lot of Rasa are probably in the trades and part of a union. They came for them too. So that's why I speak up for the LGBTQ community, for the Black community, for my community, both geographical and ethnic, with equal emphasis. An injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere, as Dr. King said. If my kid walked to the store and only the raza was doing good, they could be in danger from other groups who aren't doing good. But if we're all doing good, everyone can look out for everyone. That's why I speak up for them. And so, rest in peace to everybody that was killed. There's no justification whatsoever for hurting innocent people, and especially children. There's just no justification for that. So this isn't to excuse this shooter. It's to talk about something that others probably won't talk about. See, I've heard the conversations in reaction to the shooting, and the standard slurs are being used towards that community. Some raza, some segments of raza have a tendency towards hyper masculinity. They, that's a scientific actual definition of the psyche of most gang members, that they don't have a lot of resources or sense of belonging in society, and so they compensate with a sense of hyper masculinity. And in that subculture, I see a lot of like slander and abuse towards LGBTQ in general. I see folks who maybe have a lot of bad personal traits and qualities that would make you justifiably not trust them, not want them around you. Whereas you might know someone who's gay, at least I know people who are gay that I think are trustworthy, are honest, don't have any ill intent towards anyone, and I would trust them into my, house, my family. We're good, and so I don't see that in some of these subcultures. And this isn't intended as business advice, but they might take it that way. A lot of them are trying to grow, their platforms and their voice, but I don't think they recognize that the mainstream consists of these coalitions kind of all together. I've seen folks use grievance politics to rile their base. BLM has all this because they got it like this, and LGBTQ got all that, and we don't have nothing. Look at us, we don't got nothing. That city council of Los Angeles, before the recording was leaked, was chaired by, Raza, Nudie, Kevin, there's other ones. Here in Sacramento, there is Raza on the city council, and they are often the more visible ones. Same with the board of supervisors. I go downtown a lot, I'm around the Capitol a lot, and the people, by and large, who I see coming out of there in the largest numbers who aren't white are Raza. And it's not, it might be the landscapers. Actually, I think they were Raza. But it's a lot of people in suits having business conversations because they're part of the state assembly or the state senate. They hold positions of power in a lot of boards and a lot of state agencies. And so it's not true that we don't have anything. Raza is deeply entrenched in California government. Unfortunately, it doesn't make a lot of difference to a lot of the barrios that don't have, I'm being diplomatic, the support of developers. And, I've said that when the city decides to gentrify one community, it's at the expense of another one. And it's not just that the people get pushed and concentrated into poorer and poorer areas, but the rhetoric they use, they'll take money from these poor folks to help gentrify and accelerate the gentrification. It's planned, it's not by accident. And so that happens across the board and across ethnicities. But when I see these folks, waving the finger all the time at LGBTQ and BLM as, they get all the funding, they get all the resources. We don't got nothing. You know, we're for the raza, we're for the raza. When this dude in Oakland got killed, he was raza. I think he was a paisa that had been here a long time. He was half homeless, stayed with his sister. He was drunk in the park. The police came, and the death, the story of how it happened and all that was very similar to George Floyd. And I watched the press conference of his family talking to the news, and the people that were there holding his family's hands, rubbing their backs, consoling them, you know, speaking for justice, calling for justice, was those groups. The BLMs, the Stop Asian Hate, the LGBTQ groups. They were there with that family. It wasn't the people saying, we don't have nobody, they got all the power. I didn't see anyone that looked like them at the press conference. And so, as we move into the 2024 election, the rhetoric against LGBTQ community has been ramped up something crazy. And I don't know that the shooter felt bullied or if that was anything to do with it. Again, even if it was, that's no excuse for hurting innocent people. You know, that just needs to be made clear. And, you know, I don't think there's anything harder for a parent than to lose a kid. And so my heart really, it goes out to them. I can't imagine anything harder. That, you know, that would change somebody. Fundamentally, they'd be a whole different person after that. But while folks talk about guns, we need to have a cop at every school. I think a determined person will get past 1-2 cops pretty quick. They would be able to stop someone like this person, but I think other folks, I guess what I'm saying is that might help, it might not help. I think what could help, and I don't know to what degree, the same as putting people in the schools to protect the kids. I'm not even going to argue against that. I'll say that could help in some situations, in others it might not. It just adds one victim to the tragedy. And in the same way, we could start watching how we talk about people so that we're not dehumanizing them in our conversation every day. Because we don't know how that affects them. We don't know. People might talk about mental health. That could have been a factor. Ain't arguing against that. But does it help someone's mental health to hear people using slurs against you all the time when it doesn't affect their lives? And that's something that people can do after hearing this video, saying, you know what? I'm just not going to use this word no more. And that's it. And it's not that you're hypersensitive or any of that. If it hurts people, they're not doing nothing to you. What's the point of hurting them? So I already mentioned why I speak up, because I think one day those folks might be speaking up for me. And that day might come sooner than we know it. I was watching the Waco rally, and, you know, the candidate for the GOP was promising the biggest deportation order in U.S. history. Now, I know the last time he fired up that machine, you know, streetcar vendors, domestic workers, slaughterhouse workers, farm workers, people with no criminal records were getting caught up. And it caused a lot of suffering for them. And, you know, these people, we're here against U.S. laws. I get that, but they were contributing. They were contributing to the success of this country, and not all of them. You know, some probably did deserve to not be here. And the thing is that with these politicians, they swing to the extremes. The pendulum goes all the way or all the way. And when the biggest deportation process in U.S. history is promised, that's kind of scary because it's not the most efficient, it's not the most practical, it's not the most beneficial to the U.S., it's just the biggest. And when it was promised because we're going to clean up this country, as if the people they need to deport are dirty. I mean, you don't clean things that are clean, right? You clean things that are dirty. These are the deeper subliminal messages that are being conveyed about people that look like me. And I often see Raza like actually defend this candidate. If it weren't for the fact I don't want to have them around me, I could debate them, but you know I'm not gonna wolf. So I'll just say that. And this may not apply to them. They might have 10 generations here, but something this candidate often talks about is revoking birthright citizenship. So there's people here, born here, they're all good, but it's been a stated goal to revoke that. Now, that's a constitutional amendment. It would take a lot of votes, but the rhetoric is the same rhetoric that now has people that look like me as part of the cultural war. And LGBTQ is part of the cultural war. And, you know, first they came for the socialists, and I didn't say nothing because I wasn't a socialist. And then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't say nothing because I ain't in the trades. And then they came for the Jews, and I didn't say nothing because I'm only 1% Ashkenazi Jew, according to 23andMe, so I didn't say nothing. And then when they came for me, all the Jews, the trade unionists, the socialists, the LGBTQs, the Stop Asian Hate, they was all gone. And they, you know, they wrapped us up along with the rest of them. So that's why I speak up, and I hope, you know, you guys just be aware. Just be aware and try to do good, because it's a lot of crazy shit out there. Have a good one.